Hey guys, welcome to the Big Blue United podcast. My name is TJ. I'm here with Colin, and we have our special guest, Andrew John Messersmith, Andrew John Messersmith Esquire, old friend of ours from back in the day. Andy's been on the podcast before too. I think the last time we played the Niners, I don't remember what year that was, but maybe year 2 of the podcast. This is year 4.
Yeah,
you were definitely on the podcast before, Andy, though, right? I'm not getting this up.
Yeah.
So he's here to talk about Brock Purdy around the mouth. We're here to talk about just a bit of the most odd football game that I may have ever watched in my lifetime. I mean, I don't know what to say. It's just such a bizarre turn of events between two halves. It's like two different teams. Colin, tell me your feelings just real quick.
Well, I don't know, a half hour before we jumped on, I watched the condensed, it wasn't even condensed. It was a full replay, and I was able to skip through the commercials. So I was done with it for, in about 2 hours. And I think because I watched it like that, I probably didn't have the right feelings like I normally would have if I watched it live. But I thought the first half wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought there was a lot of fluky, unlucky things to happen. I mean, like the interception was stupid. They were moving the ball here and there, but then they were failing. And, the biggest thing and the conclusion that everybody on Twitter is coming to is that it sure as hell seems like Dable took over the play calling for the second half because he had a sheet in his hand and he didn't for the first half or all of the Cowboy game. So maybe there's a little trouble in paradise with Mike Kafka. I don't know.
He admitted he literally said he didn't do that. Do you trust that?
Well, he can lie to the media. Why not?
Sure.
Let him. I bet he would to save his buddy's ass. Maybe his play calling has just been crap so far this year. I mean, 6 quarters of no score, and historically bad. Letting the defense was bad too, but that's besides the point. Anyway.
Well, hang on. We'll guys, follow Big Blue United Facebook, X, and Instagram. X. BB Pod Boys with a Z on Twitter. Twex, whatever you want to call it. It was raining today in New York. I have an umbrella I got out of a zip car that I rented one time. It has Nas's face on one side, DMX's face on the other side. It's white and it's big. And it's, it's just the coolest thing I ever had in my life. Great score out of that zip car one time. I was walking around with that today. So,
wow.
I feel you. DMX.
I'd ask to see it, but I don't want you to get bad luck by opening it inside.
Yeah, so. My daughter was opening her umbrella in the elevator up from the school today, just knocking all the kids in the face.
Nice.
Which is, it's fun, but yeah, it's maybe not. It's not a good look for you as a parent, though.
Yeah.
Well, I'm enjoying it because I want her to dominate. The other parents don't really appreciate that.
Yeah. But anyway, back to the task at hand.
Oh, come on! We like to do a little rip shit bullshit over here.
Of course. An incredible game overall. I mean, the fact that it ended the way it did was amazing. The biggest stat that I enjoyed more than anything else, besides the fact that nobody but Daniel Jones and Michael Vick has done what they did in one half ever in NFL history in terms of over 250 yards passing, 50 yards rushing, and the amount of touchdowns that they had.
3.
Yes. So
2 passing, 1 rushing, yeah.
And I think the more interesting one was the one that they showed on the screen right at the end of the game, where the last time, the Giants tied their record for comeback in a game, and the last time they did it was in 1949 against the Chicago Cardinals. So, Cardinals all around, same team, whatever. That's pretty cool. 21 points down to come back, and I mean, there's an aspect of it, though, that, I don't know, it looked like Arizona really took a shit, too. Like, they just couldn't stop anything.
I mean, that was the one thing I would just want to ask you, first of all, is, what happened? What was this miraculous turnaround? We had not scored a point in 6 quarters. We were down 60-0. And then all of a sudden, Daniel Jones comes out. The whole team comes out, and just even the defense, was fired up. I wonder what was said at halftime. Did Lawrence Taylor come in there and sprinkle the cocaine around with everybody, or what? What was going on?
I don't know, but the proverbial human form cocaine of Jalen Hyatt, I think, was what kind of jacked everybody up to the point of being like, all right, enough of the bullshit already. We gotta, let's make it snappy here. And all of a sudden, everyone was open. The line that was patchwork anyway, after who was Bradison went out, and then Glowinski had to come back in after being benched to play left guard instead of right guard like he usually does, and he did okay. He did all right over there.
They did just enough to, make it work. And, I love you bring up that Jalen Hyatt pass. Like, you're watching this game. You're a Giants fan. The first half is just abysmal. And you're like, we're done. Like, this is it for this team. Like, we can't put up 3 points against the worst team in the NFL. And then all of a sudden you come out in the second half and just, like, do this. It's sort of amazing. I wish I could heard of, what was said in the locker room. And I think Jalen Hyatt getting open for, that 56-yard pass, first play of the second half, if I'm correct about that, was just, the fire starter of what would be, such a prolific, sort of offense that you've never seen the Giants play in the last couple of years.
It's clear. I mean, Dan texted us too earlier about a point that we should talk about of Hyatt already earning the right for more playing time and more snaps. And I think that's true. The problem with that is you got to take somebody off. And is it someone like a Paris Campbell that isn't playing, who's a new signing? Probably not. Yeah, I think for a while it's going to be continuing to be packages for him. I don't think he'll automatically be a starter, but you'll see him more.
I don't think he has that the skill set yet. Like he'll develop those routes, but like right now he's fast, and then he showed that this game, he could run down the field and catch the ball, catch people off guard, stretch the defense. I'm sure I maybe wasn't noticing it so much, but I'm sure he was in stretching the field, which helped Waller get balls over the middle, which was a huge, thing that happened in the second half. And, Darren Waller ended up with 76 yards, 6 receptions, and they were all over the middle. They're missing all first downs. All first downs. Yeah. Exactly. So like I give credit to whatever it's Dable, Kafka, whatever coaching decisions they decided to make between, the first and second halves, it works. Daniel Jones looked like a $40 million man.
Yes,
for once in his career.
I wanted to point out something I saw on Twitter today. Someone said it perfectly. It was like, why does he, as a quarterback, have to be such a polarizing conversation every single time that you bring him up? Why can't it be, all right, credit is due when he plays well, and criticism is due when he plays like shit? And enjoy the games while you have them, instead of being like, he's terrible or he's him, capital H. Because
people wanted to make excuses for him for his entire career. Offensive line, wide receivers, it's not there, it's not here, it's not whatever. All he did was show that that's all BS to me in this game, because if he really wants to take it over and he really puts himself into it, whatever it is, I mean, I'm sure there's other, things going on around this circumstance, right? But you don't just walk into the second half and then, throw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, run for another one, complete basically all your passes the whole second half. I mean, he accomplished something that, like you said earlier, that has never been accomplished by anyone but Michael Vick, which is saying a lot. Maybe that Vanilla Vick moniker isn't as stupid as you think it is, right?
Also, one more thing about him that I think was different, and I don't know, you try to read him as a body language and stuff like that, and I don't know if we have ever seen him more fired up. Like, he's showing that he's just like, all right, enough of the bullshit, sick of the losing, I'm going to prove everybody wrong kind of stuff right now. And, put the guy in the right situation to be able to capitalize on something like that, like this. And that's probably why Dable, I'm just going to straight up believe that he started calling plays or influencing the plays a little bit more in the second half. He was just sick of what was going on. Probably a combination of the Cowboy game and the first half of this game.
Well, yeah, it wasn't working. That was obvious to anyone who's ever watched football before. So
yeah, overall, we're not going to spend too much time on it. Obviously, we gotta look ahead and have a good old conversation with our good pal here.
I just want to touch on one more thing about the game before we move on to the Niners with you, Colin. Is that Kayvon Thibodeau has been nowhere twice in a row.
He looks.
How do you feel?
He's a ghost. He dresses up like an absolute dope going to the games, and then he doesn't do anything when he's out there. It's like, all right, you look like a big infant baby, and he's got like this. He was wearing this baby blue like Oshkosh Kabosh looking overalls with shorts and some like stupid bucket hat. It's like, are you spending more time on your fashion than you are on the playbook, or
Yes.
are you taking plays off? Like he looked lost sometimes, and I know some people would be like, oh, well, he's asked to go into coverage more times than a regular pass rusher would. And I'm like, all right, that's cool, but he still has to sack people from time to time. He didn't even register a tackle.
He had one QB hit the whole game. That was his whole thing. I'm just like, in the beginning of the game, the Giants defense was absolutely abysmal. And then in the second half, they as well sort of stepped up. And I think Kayvon was just gone. He just wasn't there. Dexter Lawrence had a great game. I thought Okereke had a couple of penalties, but he otherwise had a good game. And Justin Pinnock obviously had probably the best game of his career with that pick negated by Okereke's penalty, potentially caused by his penalty as well. But either way, I did like how the defense came out in the second half. I'm just like, what happened in the locker room, man? What happened?
I would imagine, because you probably noticed that Dable generally looked pissed the entire game, even when things were going on that were good. He was just pissed. So I bet he just tore into them. Like,
you think he just laid down, blasting?
I think he worked up quite a bit of a sweat for a big man like that, just yelling. They deserved it. Room full of professional football players, and how can you look this bad? How can you be this historically bad in the first 2 games of a season, or 1.5 games anyway? Just like, it was a wake-up call. It was like, all right, Arizona's arguably worse than us. Now, we beat them, so they are worse than us. But I think the talent is too, I don't know, it's not great, but it's much better than what these first 6 quarters show.
I'm not going to get Josh Dobson truck sticking Xavier McKinney out of my head for a couple weeks, I don't think. Brutal.
Yeah, well, actually, it's funny you should say that. I saw a lot of piss poor tackling done by him in particular in this game, which was odd because he's usually a pretty sure tackle. I don't know. Maybe it's business decision.
Well, he plays safety, so he's not a sure tackle.
All
right. We have Andy here. Let's get into next week. Obviously, we saw what was a miraculous experience with the Giants. We can only hope that what took place in the second half can carry over to next week with the 49ers on Thursday. But AJ is going to tell us why it's not going to be like that, right?
Well, it's going to be a tough contest for the Giants. The 49ers have a lot of weapons on offense, and defense playing pretty well. Not as great as last year, but pretty good. I don't know if Steve Wilks has really found his way as defensive coordinator for the 49ers at this point in the season. Seemed to kind of playing a lot of kind of deeper in the secondary and allowing a lot of kind of underneath stuff to be available. So if you've got, some good slot players or some good kind of slants or kind of mid-range passing, I think that could be effective, especially, with our pass rush. You kind of want to get rid of the ball quickly. You can develop some type of quick 3-step drop, 7-8 yarder kind of passes. You might find that effective against the 49ers.
Tell me who's on the Niners line. Like you have obviously Nick Bosa, first or second best pass rusher in the league. Like
the dude Javon Hargrave from the Eagles.
Sure, remember him. Yep,
playing quite well so far this year. A little bit of a project for our defensive line coach Kasirak, who's actually pretty good at turning around kind of guys who weren't so great on other teams. They come there, they play well for a year, they get a new contract. So we have our project guy this year is Cleveland Farrell from the Raiders.
Oh, from the Raiders, yeah. He was the 4th overall pick, I think. What?
Yeah, he kind of.
Let me say 2000. I'm going to say 2020, 2021, but I'm not positive about that.
Yeah, it's maybe 3 years ago. I think 2020, and he, didn't do much there. So he's coming over. He's going to try to see if he can't revamp his career a little bit. So he's kind of anchoring the other end. And then we have
I love that pickup, though. I love that pickup. He would. I feel like he would have been way better had he been picked later. I think the expectations put on him were too high. And Josh Allen, not the quarterback, but the guy who was defensive end drafted by the Jaguars, was a little bit after him, who I think most people were targeting in that situation. So I think Clean and Farrell, had a little bit too much put on him in the moment. So I love to hear that he's on the Niners and trying to succeed. That's great.
Fresh start. He's with a new position coach who's had a lot of success turning around young guys' careers who kind of were not doing, living up to expectations on their team. So I think that there's a chance there that he develops into something. Also, we have Eric Armstead on our defensive line.
Yeah.
And then we have this guy that we got a couple of years ago, Javon Kinlaw, who's he's not.
Was he a first round pick for you guys?
Yeah.
But he hasn't lived up to it, right?
He was kind of hurt, and then effort issues perhaps, and he's not really living up to expectations. But this is kind of the year where it's like, okay, if he doesn't do something now to prove it, done deal with him. So, he's not our best. But I mean, you don't want to go to Bosa's side. You want to go kind of on the Cleveland and whatever.
I mean, and presumably Saquon will be out this week because of his injury.
Yeah, it's 3 weeks.
Matt
3 weeks. Okay, I didn't read the newest, but yeah.
Yeah. Were you about to bring up Matt, your boy Matt Breida? Is that who you were going to say?
Revenge game.
No, I mean what I was going to bring up in general is just I think that it's a hard game to sort of judge for me right now because the Giants have been two different teams. They've been one team for 6 quarters. They've been another team for 2 quarters. So the 49ers have been the same team. Basically, I think Brock Purdy had a not a great game this weekend compared to the weekend before. I don't feel like the Giants secondary might have an issue if Ayuk still going to be out, or is he going to play?
He'll play. He's a little banged up, but he came back into the game. He was still playing at the end. He just wasn't, heavily targeted.
Effective. Okay.
He's got soreness, kind of shoulder soreness or something like that. He didn't break anything or anything like that, so he's going to play. He just might be a little banged up.
I mean, how do you feel, Colin? What team comes out this week? Which one?
Well, as Andy was talking about what could work for the Giants offense against this defense is more or less the exact offense what they played in the second half yesterday. A lot of getting the ball out. There was no 7-step drops at all. It was like 1, 2, gone. And that mid-range level, I mean, that's Darren Waller land right there. So I think he could have.
I mean, they did throw the ball deep, though.
Yes, but it was like lots of dink and dunk deep, like lull you into sleep, and then all of a sudden Hyatt's streaking.
I mean, one of my favorite plays was deep down to Slayton. He actually caught the ball. He wasn't in bounds, but he caught the ball.
But that's what I mean.
Some,
it's kind of lulling a defense into thinking that the deep ball isn't there. Then all of a sudden it is. So I'm sure that's going to continue. The running game is, I mean, it was non-existent with Saquon in there. So I think Breida he's a fine backup. He'll probably do a lot of pass blocking and catching a screen here and there. I feel like it'll be a lot of short passes to take over for the run kind of game. And you just have to figure out which defense shows up. I think that'll be very indicative of how the game can go.
I think it's funny how, on this podcast, we've been saying how Saquon can't play on third down. I think the last 2 weeks have really proved that for sure.
Yeah.
Pivotal moments, turnovers where, your hands aren't where they're supposed to be.
Well, that's the strange thing. I mean, like, he in the offseason, he's like, all right, well, I lost like 7 to 8 pounds or whatever because, it seems that I'll be asked to run routes more, which is something I love to do. And I think that's a skill set that I bring to the table. Well, you've been stone-handing it for the first 2 games. You can't. And it's not like the ball's being thrown too hard. This is the NFL. You catch the fucking ball, and if you don't,
I mean, if you're running a play to the outside to the flat, right? I mean, there's a corner right there every time, but every single time.
Catch it first.
Yeah, you can't let it bounce off your hands. Yeah,
it was already
I know.
Turning around.
Absolutely,
you see that all the time. They're waiting for the next move, and they want that next move. But whatever. He's not going to be playing this week, and we don't have to worry about him.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's get back into the Niners thing. If we want to talk about running backs, obviously Christian McCaffrey is a big deal on the Niners. I feel like the Giants' run defense has been a little suspect thus far. Again, Colin, you're right. 2 different teams. What are we going to do? Andy, what do you think? I mean, we know what Christian McCaffrey brings to the table. How do you think the Niners are certainly like? I'm sorry. How do you think the Niners are utilizing him now more to their benefit? Like, is it more of a pass and run combination, or is he more of a running back? I haven't seen too many of the games.
It's both. I mean, he has been getting the bulk of the carries the last couple of games, but they've been talking. Kyle's been talking about how he doesn't want to have that continue. He wants to get Elijah Mitchell more involved, especially kind of running between the tackles, and then have him kind of do some more specialized, get out in space, screens and things like that, and other running routes and whatever. But yeah, he's been carrying the load the bulk of the way, and he's had some nice long runs, and he's looked good. The left side of our line is quite good. The right side, suspect. So come at that right side. Colton McKivitz is not a great tackle. Spencer Burford, not a great guard. So if you guys can get some pressure on that right side, they're probably going to try running to the left. So keep an eye on that.
It's too bad that we can't generate a pass rush unless it's with a random blitz from a safety or cornerback, or maybe a linebacker here and there.
Yep.
That doesn't bode well, especially with the aforementioned ghost of number 5. I don't know. Like, I think if the pressure is there, and you saw it briefly against Arizona with Okereke getting in there, and then you had Dexter Lawrence getting in there a couple of times. It was like this close to sacks, just not quite there. Yeah, pressures are just as good. They're not as glamorous as sacks, but if you're just there, then you force the issue. And I feel like, I don't know, Brock Purdy is a very good quarterback for someone who is Mr. Irrelevant. And I think you can't sleep on him either. I think he's smart as hell. And yeah, I think Wink has his hands full. I'm not as worried about the strangely enough, the San Francisco defense as I am our defense and how the hell.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, if you just look at the last game, our offensive line compared to theirs, and on paper they're pretty similar, but there were 3-man rushes where Daniel Jones is getting sacked.
Yeah.
I think that the Giants' defensive pressure was just sort of abysmal. I mean, I'm so shocked when they went out and cleared all the cap space, with restructuring the deals that we spoke about last week, that they, haven't brought in a pass rusher. I think maybe, they're looking at what's his name? Jaleel Collins, a former Bengal, former Cowboy. Laleel Collins? I'm sorry, either way.
It's L-A-E-L.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Either way, I'm sorry for mispronouncing his name. But, if they're not going to cover that cap space, and I think they were originally going to go look for a rusher before, the first game of the season happened, where the offensive line was so abysmal that everyone was like, we'll go out and get somebody on the line. But really, the pass rush is hurting. Aziz has been out. He hasn't shown anything for being a second-round pick. Kayvon has shown anything being, your first-round pick, 5 overall. I went through that draft today, honestly, and I was looking through the whole thing, and I don't think the Giants really could have made any better choices in that draft at the time. Evan Neal was Alabama, taking on every good rusher in the SEC his whole career and dominating. And, he's come into the NFL and had struggles. And Kayvon, the same way, he's, been in Oregon and did great, and just had struggles and some flashes, but what this team needs right now is immediate good play from your guys number 5 and 7 you drafted in the first round. Especially if you look around the league and the other guys, Sauce Gardner, or I forget who was picked before that, but Sauce was obviously immediate impact guy. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, I don't want to go and say, I mean, the prognosticators online are like, they're both busts. These are horrible. Everyone thinks that, oh, yeah, great. We were so excited when they were drafted then, and they're terrible now. It's just, I'm not ready to do that. I think it's still too early. Is it bad timing that both of them are not living up to their pedigree? Yes, but I think it's not forever. I feel like either one or the other is going to figure it out. Maybe not both of them. but someone is going to end up being a good pro. It would be nice to see them grow this year. I mean, we had flashes last year of Kayvon. I mean, he had which game was it? The Washington game that he took over.
Oh, the sack fumble touchdown.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was great. It was great. Let's see more of that. But I don't know. I feel like the short turnaround Thursday nights are tough for both teams playing in it, regardless of how much time you have. I mean, like, you know it. You've watched Thursday night games from years past, and they always end up being freak shows. There's always something wrong with it. The Vikings last week, I mean, what were they, 4 turnovers in the first half or something? It was like, what the hell's happening right now? So with that being said, I don't know. There's like it's almost like Thursday night football is like the Bermuda Triangle of football. You go in there and you don't know what the hell's going to happen. You changed the background finally?
Well, yeah, I had the casket last week. I forgot to change it for this week because we won. But the casket last week made a lot of sense.
So you should.
I realized
it should be a cradle with like a newborn baby in it now. It's new life, a new day.
I don't want to get ahead of myself, honestly, because as we've been talking about with AJ, like this is a tough game coming up, and the 49ers defense is legit, and I'm not positive that the Giants offense is at that level to come at that. We saw what happened against the Cowboys against a legitimate pass rush.
Yeah. And
yeah, sure, like, the Cardinals had a couple guys getting in there, blah, blah. Daniel Jones got sacked 3 times. But the Cardinals actually have, Nick Bosa is going to be bearing down on Andrew. Is Andrew Thomas going to be playing? We're not sure.
I mean, they were saying during the game yesterday that it's like because of the short turnaround, he might not end up playing this week. But knowing him, I feel like he's going to push. If he can run, and that was the one thing that was stopping him, he could not run.
I'm just saying, Andy, you mentioned some of those other pass rushers earlier. So obviously someone's going to be lined up against Evan Neal. And, I watched a little bit of film from the game afterwards, like you said, watching the replay, and he's just lost in the sauce, man.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Bosa has not looked as you can tell. He took a little time off working on his contract. He's not the Nick Bosa of the end of last year. Okay. That's not who's coming, at Daniel Jones this week. I mean,
what better remedy though than a week like this and a team like this? I mean, I don't know. I think it's so hard to tell what kind of game this is going to be. My hopes are not going to be up after this last win for the Giants, but I feel like it might be better than my negative mind would automatically think. It might be closer.
I feel a bit positive, to be honest with you. Just after seeing Daniel Jones finally play, come on, say something bad about how he played in the second half.
You can't. He did everything right. I mean, he was firing everybody up. Everybody followed him. It was it was good. It was what you wanted, and I feel like what's good about his play is he's starting to do it more consistently, which makes us not have to think about him anymore. We can complain about other aspects of the team and not him.
As long as we got something to complain about, right?
Yeah. What's the special teams looking like for the 49ers? Who's their main kick and punt returner?
Well, Ray McLeod, he's all right. We've been looking suspect on coverage of returns where people are kind of running it back on us a little bit. So that's a vulnerability. It looks like if I don't know who your returner is, but if he's coming well, we're not looking very good on kick coverage team. It looks like people are somebody's going to run one back on us any week now, and I wouldn't be shocked if it happens this week because
interesting.
That looks suspect.
We have a very, straight up and down, straightforward returner in Eric Ray, who's a running back. What pick was he? 6th round or 5th round?
He was a 5th round pick.
Yeah. And he's that's his main role. He's doing the punt and kick returns. And he's like a no BS. I'm running straight and stop me. Like he's not a scat back kind of character, although he is when he runs the ball out of the backfield. But when it comes to, I think he's a rookie and they basically tell him, do not lose yards, gain them. Go that way.
Yep. So returning the ball is so dicey now in the NFL. Is this true that you can actually just fair catch the ball and start at a 25-yard line on a kickoff?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's insanity. Yeah.
Well, because you have the people that were, the studies with the injuries and CTE and all the concussions and stuff.
I mean, I understand why it exists, but like,
yeah, it
come on.
cheapens it. It cheapens
Yeah.
it. No, I mean, I've advocated for them to do some sort of variation of what the XFL was doing. You've seen how they did kickoffs?
Yeah, those kickoffs were interesting, right? Yeah.
You line up, I think the two lines, each team are 10 yards away from each other, all on the one end, and the kickoff happens way behind. And it's kind of like one-on-one, man-on-man blocking, like rudimentary, can you block or can you not? And it actually gives the runners a little more opportunity to return things from time to time. I'd be into it. Hey, they've taken other things from the XFL between.
Well, they clearly need to like clean this up, because I think like some of those, it's hard to say, like, because those kickoffs and returns are some of the most exciting plays in the game sometimes. Like, you guys remember Colts, Chicago, Super Bowl, Devin Hester runs the first kickback for a touchdown. Like, how exciting is that?
Yeah, it was great.
They're trying to eliminate that. I think like there needs to be a better compromise between the player safety and like having exciting plays of that nature. Getting rid of the wedge was a good idea.
Yeah.
Go beyond that. Fix the rules more. Don't just like fair catch.
Yeah. Has anyone done it yet?
I have not seen it in a game, but it's still kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
What's that?
The fair catch.
Fair catch for a kickoff?
I saw that, yeah.
You did.
I caught it like the 3 and, waited. Because I think, they don't want people to pop it up and then get down there and then start stopping people at like the 10, or whatever, where there's just an injury like that. Our kickoffs are a crapshoot because we drafted a kicker, Jake Moody, and he's been
in the 3rd round, right?
He's been lights out. He just kicked a 57-yarder against the Rams, so he's been great kicking field goals. But on kickoffs, he wasn't doing all our kickoffs. The punter was kicking off some of them.
Yeah, that happens.
And it was like not always going well. And then he kicked one off, and it was a legal procedure out of bounds. So, who knows what's going to go on? Our special teams are good on the field goals, but kind of in the punts, but in shambles on kickoffs and kickoff returns. So we'll see what happens with that.
Little slight segue here, but do you think it's possible that Kyle Shanahan's his brim will be so straight that it'll actually start to concave and start going like this?
We're lucky we don't have a lot of rain out here. He would, drown in the upside down concave, collecting water.
Yeah. He's the king of the flat brim. That guy is. And I feel like he has a small head, so the hat looks so huge on him.
He does have a small head. It's long but skinny.
It's a very narrow weasel-like kind of head.
Yeah, he looks like that guy Merv from Impractical Jokers. You ever guys see that show?
Yes.
Yeah, he looks just like that with a hat on.
Hey, you know what? I think Kyle's got to bring Mike out and just have him on the sideline. His pops.
Yeah.
I miss him. I feel like he's very old now. So let's bring him back.
I wonder if he would be less angry now as an old man. Because
I thought he's all shaky and pissed off still. Yes, exactly with that face.
He's always just red and angry looking. I wonder if old age has mellowed him out at all. Still just.
I bet he stays home, and when like the 49ers are doing bad, he screams at his TV. He's like, "I hate you, Kyle.
Yeah.
You'll never be as good as me."
He's got to have one of the most impressive coaching trees, though, because like all the guys that Kyle hired, worked for him and stuff. So like, they're half the head coaches now. Salah and friggin' D'Amico Ryans and the LaFleur and Sean McVay.
D'Amico crying because they can't win a game.
Oh,
all right.
Hey yo. It's kind of like the old Bill Walsh tree. It's kind of similar to that.
Pete Carroll.
Yes. Nick Madison's favorite coach of all time.
I don't know who that is. Well, guys, let's. Obviously, we've worked out enough of this Giants Niners stuff. Anything else around the league this week that was fun? You'd like to mention? Justin Fields sucks, huh? That's pretty funny.
I haven't seen any of that. Does he actually suck now?
Yeah, he just threw like an interception just straight away. There's a guy like right open in front of him. He just like, hero of the team, pick 6 you. Go ahead.
That coach is horrible. They never should have hired that.
Yeah, what's his name? Matt Nagy?
Eberfluss.
Oh, Eberfluss.
Oh.
Who's Matt Nagy coaching then? He was the last coach of that team?
Yeah, he's a coordinator somewhere.
I don't know shit.
know,
Eberfluss.
It really, the teams that are just been so damn mediocre for so long continue to be, and like I would like the Bears to be good again because I feel like it's more exciting when the classic.
You mean like the Giants?
Well, for starters,
Teams have been mediocre for a long time that you'd like to be good.
Did you see that Justin Jefferson now has more receiving yards than any Bear in their history?
Love that.
4 years old. It's just they've just been horrible in some ways forever.
The Bears are 103 years old as a franchise, and that's pathetic. Like, how is that even possible?
Colin showed me that when he beated me in fantasy last weekend.
Yeah. Well,
Colin beat me because I didn't start Daniel Jones, and I'm very upset about that, to be honest.
I dropped Daniel Jones in one league like immediately. I started in week 1, dropped him immediately.
Yep.
It's like, see ya.
Yeah.
Well,
there's going to be some games like this past weekend, and there's going to be some games like the Cowboy game, and you cannot depend on him in fantasy for that. So
that's the truth, man.
You just can't. Anything else happened this week that was interesting? I don't know.
I'm trying to think what games I watched.
I watched the Bills, and the hell were the Bills playing the other day?
I watched the same game, and I don't know who they were either. The Raiders? Was it the Raiders?
Yeah, it was the Raiders.
Yeah.
And it was boring. I just.
That's not a great game.
No, I didn't enjoy it.
And then, what was the Sunday night game? It was
I didn't watch. I was at a wedding last night. I didn't.
Literally just been.
I watched
inhaling this thing for 3 days, and I don't know anything. No, last night, Sunday Night Football. It was the Patriots and the Dolphins because I lost $25 betting on Tua to have 2 touchdowns and 250 yards.
Patriots look awful.
They suck.
They look awful.
I was telling someone just this past weekend. I think it's time for Bill to transition to just GM and stop coaching because
I think it's time for him to transition to a woman.
The Chargers need to get rid of their coach too. They're wasting Justin Herbert with this.
Oh my God, they're terrible. They lost to the Titans
last year during that collapse when they lost to end their season. It was like they need to fire that guy right then, but they kept him around and they're continuing to suck and lose games at the end. And it's so frustrating to see such talent just wasted by such a mediocre coach.
Yeah, and I have him in that one league that.
Whose hand is this? Is your wife next to you?
No, it's my hand.
Oh God!
Hey,
screaming me out.
Does this look like it's?
You were like going. No, you were like this. Wait, how do I do it?
I can't see your hand. Oh yeah. Yeah, you can't see my arm. Yeah. All right. Well, Andy, what's your score prediction for Thursday?
Oh yeah, let's go.
It's a short week. It's going to be tough, but it's our first home game. So I think our crowd's going to be pumped about that, coming back 2-0, home game, Thursday night, lights. I think
Thursday night lights.
We'd put up 30 points in like every game. So I'm going to say 30 points for the 49ers, and I'm going to say 17 for the Giants.
That sounds right. That sounds pretty right. I think the only way that the Giants win, both scores are in the teens. I think that's how that goes.
We're not a catch up, quick, come from behind kind of team. We take a lead early and we kind of keep it. So if you guys can get out the gate, get a big return on our terrible coverage team, get a little momentum going. You get up 14-0, you're in good shape. But otherwise, we get out to a lead, we kind of grind and keep the lead. Yeah. We're not a big deep ball. Brock Purdy doesn't have the strongest arm in the world. We're not a deep ball, quick score kind of team. So you get up on us and keep the ball and grind it out a little bit. We're not coming back. So you just jump out quick. You got us.
Yeah. Well, I think the sole fact that it's a Thursday night game kind of makes it all a crapshoot. So if we are to beat the 49ers at any point, or any kind of night or setup, it's going to be on the Thursday night just because of the freakishness that ends up happening. So, I don't know, TJ, what's your score?
I mean, this is an easy one for me, guys. We're going to go into the half. Niners will be up 28-0. And then at the end of the game, Giants are going to tie it up 28-28 with no time left and win on a 2-point conversion, 29-28 Giants.
Oh, boy, do I hope not. I don't even want that heart attack waiting
That's
to
a
happen.
heart attack. Another thing, really quickly, is just that Niners hate the Rams and so much and play so hard against the Rams. Like, we're coming off a lot of emotion in that game. That it's possible trap game or kind of, low energy getting out of the gate.
I feel like trap game for the Niners is definitely there for the Giants.
Any given Thursday.
Have the Niners always hated the Rams?
Well, you hated the Cowboys the most in
Yeah.
the 90s when that was kind of like a rivalry.
Yeah.
Then,
But as of recent, you'd say
recently, but like we were spanking them for a while there, because it seemed like Sean McVay just was the little acolyte of Kyle, and he knew all his tricks and he knew what he was going to do.
Curl.
So we had their number for quite a while, but then when we lost to him in the playoffs after beating him twice in the regular season, it left a bad taste. These fools. But yeah, no, I hate the Seahawks more. To be honest with you, hate the Seahawks way more, and they seem to get the better of us even when they have a worse team. Pete Carroll, much as I hate his guts, he's a pretty good coach, and they gets the most out of his players.
You know why I hate the Seahawks? Because that's not a real creature.
Well,
it doesn't exist in reality.
It's true. That is very true.
Just call yourselves the Seagulls because you're nipping at someone's sandwich on the beach. They're just trying to have a good time with their family.
Yeah,
you come over trying to eat their sandwich.
It's funny to hear, other divisions and how the interdivisional hatred and how it all gets worked out. And I mean, I feel like, and I don't know, I feel like we're biased because people have said it for years. I mean, the teams have been crap consistently, but like the NFC East is just, I feel like it's another monster altogether. Even when the teams suck, they end up being entertaining games for the most part. Yeah, I don't know. I think
there's a lot of people who like the Giants and the Cowboys who don't live in Dallas and New York. I think is probably why that exists.
Yeah, possible.
And then people from Philly just are very loud. They're angry, upset with society.
They were booing on the first couple of drives of the game this past week.
Yeah, probably upset because there's more to life than graffiti, beating your wife, methamphetamine,
drugs on the street.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is this isn't a hatred of Philadelphia. Yeah.
I'm doing it. I'm definitely doing it.
All right. Well, I think I think that's all good and fine. I think this was a great little conversation. It's always good to have you on, Andy. We miss you. We love you.
Great to see you guys.
We hope that you lose this week.
That's very fair. Very fair.
I
hope it's worth watching more than about 20 minutes of. That's all.
Agreed. Yes. Let's just root for an entertaining game more than anything else.
Life's hard enough as it is. Let's have some good entertaining football at the end of the day. Just have that be nice.
Yeah, I like it.
Wow, you guys are so pleasant. And on that note, thank you, friends, for listening tonight. Please follow Big Blue United, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can follow us at BB Papa's on Twitter. Thank you for watching Delicious Dish. And you have a wonderful evening.
Namaste.
Namaste.